Well, I don't know, and I don't think so, but it's disgraceful and dreadful. And it's not only just that. I mean, look at the money that's going to Israel. Billions and billions of dollars every year. And what's even worse is the money that they send, well, just as bad, I should say, the money that they send to Egypt. I mean, those are the two major recipients of American largesse every year. And it's disgusting. It's disgraceful. I mean, in the country of Israel is running a surplus. It's a strong currency. They're doing very well economically, and so is in Egypt for that matter. And I don't get it. It's wrong. And Americans are starving on the streets, and people are getting let go from their jobs to cut back on military expenditures. It's wrong. And then they expect people to run off to some country, someplace in the world, and die for America. They're not dying for America. They're dying for Wall Street and banking. That's what they're dying for. You know, where can we have another war next so we can get more profits?
Betty comes back in again from Southern California with a question, or with a statement in question. The University of California Economic Department was posted here on the Orange County Register that the state is $20 billion short in what it needs for its obligations to the retirees. In parentheses, in quotation marks, those people 62 years and above. The report has sparked an administrative task force to look into increasing contributions by those that are working. Mr. Chapman, this reeks of some form of government misconduct at the top. They're going to appoint a task force with 12 people that, or Schwarzenegger is going to appoint. This sounds like to me he's going to pay off some friends to go out there and look at something that we already know what's going on.
Well,
what's going to happen in California if they don't
That's
fix
the
this?
Political way. California is going to go bankrupt. I left in 1994 for the same reason. I lived there 36 years. I mean, the taxes are outrageous. The quality of living is falling dramatically. You're better off being an illegal alien in that state than you are a tax-paying citizen. I mean, I paid millions of dollars in taxes to California. I was in the top tax bracket. It was a disgrace, and it still is. And that's why I don't live there anymore. And I love the state, but it's not a place I can live in. It's over.
From Long Beach, California, Mr. Chapman, it is a well-known fact here that movie stars are now moving out of California and taking up full-time residences in other states to get away from the extremely high taxes, as you just stated. It is estimated.
A lot of them are going to other countries as well.
Right.
I mean, the U.S. government admits that 100,000 Americans migrate to Mexico every year. Now, these are usually substantial people or people in retirement. That is not the right figure. The figure, if you include Canadians and Americans and Europeans, is 600,000 a year. And the Mexican government can't get them in fast enough because they have a stream of income and they don't break the law and they're not a drag on society and from a social viewpoint. I've never even heard of Americans committing crimes in Latin America or Mexico. And so they want them. And it's no doubt that they're leaving. I get 4 or 5 letters every day from people of substance that want to leave. I got one yesterday from a doctor, a surgeon, and his wife who is a dentist. I mean, it's going to happen. People are sick and tired of all the taxes they have to pay and bearing this terrible burden of 30 million people who are illegally in the country. It's wrong. And the people who are there illegally, 98% of them are decent, good, hard-working people. That's not the problem. The problem is they're living within the system and costing the system in a depression that's been going on for a year and a half.
Mm-hmm. Here's a statement from San Diego. Mr. Chapman, there are quality people that live here in San Diego are actually moving to Tijuana, taking up residence in Tijuana, and putting people to work down there with what they have in their business. It is amazing that they can work in Mexico, charge 50% less than what their office in San Diego is, and yet they make twice as much money on the net end because the taxes are eating them up. It sounds like a double standard, but in actuality, it's their actual work ethics are even better. I don't know where I will move to, but do you feel that there's any really good place where English is a primary language in Latin America or South America?
Well, you'll find that 45%, about 50 to or more percent of people under 45 years old speak English, all throughout Latin America. I mean, you go to Panama, San Jose, Costa Rica, even in Montevideo and Uruguay and in Buenos Aires in Argentina, cities like Mexico City and Guadalajara, in all of that central Mexican country, there's all kinds of people. And incidentally, in Mexico, if this doesn't take the cake, inflation is going to be 3.5% this year. And they're telling the truth about that. But growth is going to be 7.5%. And they didn't use any stimulus. So, you go where the jobs are. And I think that these illegal aliens who are Mexicans, they ought to go home. It's better off down there than it is in Phoenix and Los Angeles and Denver and so on.
Would you ask Mr. Chapman what his take is on the Citigroup putting 7,500 Chinese to work and removing their jobs out of the United States? This troubles me how a service can be tariffed overseas. How would that happen?
Well, it's been in the works since the 1960s. They started on it in earnest in the 1980s, and now it's become a flood of jobs leaving the country, and it gets worse every day. And the only way you're going to stop it is to vote these people out of office in November. And if you can't do that, and the incumbents stay in, most of all whom are paid off, then you better get ready for revolution, because that's exactly what's going to happen. I mean, what do you think happened in France in the late 1700s? In 1789, they had a revolution. 300,000 people of 30 million people in the country lost their heads. The same thing could happen in America. The people at the top in government, people at the top in Wall Street and banking, insurance and pharmacies, pharmaceutical companies and transnational corporations, they're all behind this. They just make more money. They don't give a darn what happens to America. They'll move to France or Argentina or wherever they want with their money.
Explaining my question, he comes in and he says, Mr. Chapman, how can we put a tariff on those type of service businesses where banks are hiring people to give advice under the corporate standards and they're working out of other countries such as India and China?
You go to your Congress and you change it. It's simple. And if you can't do that, there's only one avenue left to you Americans, and that's it. Do what the French did, and many others have done. Do what we did in 1776. I mean, how much longer are we going to put up with this?
That's a good. How long are we going to put up with it? That's a good question, because I'm fed up. I'm not going to take it anymore. I've had enough. Do you support the full renewal of ask Mr. Chapman if he supports the full renewal of the Bush tax cut?
Under these circumstances, the answer is yes. The worst possible thing that government can do is raise taxes. There are two bills in Congress, and I've talked about this before, and they were not bills until this week. Number one, and I don't have it in front of me, it's in for typing, but there's one bill that's going to make it mandatory for every American worker to have an IRA, that the government is going to take 3% of your pay, and they're going to put it in there to buy retirement bonds for a government that's bankrupt. The second one is a 1% tax on every transaction made in America. So if you go buy a car for $30,000, you're going to pay $300 tax. And the people who sell you the car, they're going to pay $300 tax. So we can fund all of this debt that we have in America and all these wars that right now have cost us over $1 trillion. And those two bills will pass. And that's the exact wrong thing to do. And incidentally, the Health Reform Act had 19 new taxes in it. So the answer is no. Those tax breaks should be extended. And if they're not, and then the other taxes are put in place, America will collapse financially.
Question from
It's the same thing I told the Greeks to do.
Yeah, you did. Question from Betty. She says, how can we pay off the debt that we have now?
And in French they say, and in Spanish they say, imposible. Impossible. Not in 20 lifetimes. Come on. America's bankrupt. The dollar's going to come down in value. The American economy and the European economies are going to collapse, and they're going to take the whole world with them. And the people in China and Japan and Uruguay and Sweden, they think they're going to escape it. They're kidding themselves. They may not get it nearly as bad, but they're going to get it.
From New York City, Mr. Chapman, the U.S. economy has been noted as Obama's central mission. Are there any tools out there that could be used to help our economy from its faltering recovery?
Say that again, Drew, please, quickly.
He says here, Obama is touting that the United States needs to increase its mission available to increase the economy, but are there any tools out there that Obama can use to help the faltering recovery of the United States economy?
Not really. What they have to do is clean house. They have to allow all these corporations, these banks, these brokerage firms, the insurance companies, who got all these TARP funds and get all these special deals, they have to allow them to go bankrupt, because they are bankrupt. The only way you're going to solve the situation is go through a terrible, quick depression of 4 or 5 years and write it all off. Let the foreigners eat it. Let the banks eat it. Let them go down. They're the ones that caused this problem in the first place. I mean, they used fractional banking historically, 9-to-1. That was considered okay. They were lending 70-to-1, and they're still lending 40-to-1, and they're carrying 2 sets of books. The only way we're going to do it is purge the system, and it's not going to be nice.
One quick question.
And that's why we should try them all.
One quick question, Mr. Chapman. Those behind the scenes that control the value of money, control the value of gold and silver, it's not about gold or silver or what is used to back the currency. It's really about the people. Who do you feel is the most capable to come in and restructure our financial system and economy in the United States, or do you have any idea?
Well, I think the people who caused the problem could do it, but we don't want them to do it. We want them to go to jail, and we want the system purged, and we want to start from scratch, and we want to put on tariffs. We got a great country, and it can be great again, but not with the crew we've got in there. There's all kinds of people in America who are qualified to run the United States economically and financially, besides these criminals that we have in New York and Washington.